Welcome to the Shadow Archives, a fan-led show dedicated to the Blade of Shadows. And today we are kicking off our first episode of our Timeborne reread. I am your host, Matt from Ohio, and today I am joined by my friends from all around the world. Patrick from North Carolina, Lisa from Northern Virginia, Lou from Denmark, and Sam from England. If you've been following along, you'll know that the last two episodes, we concluded the epic dark fantasy origin story, Rise of the Shadow Lords, as Salvatore and Lazarus created the Timeborns and everything that goes with that. And then we had a nice, lovely round-robin Q&A about the origin story and how we felt about the series as a whole. And now we get to fast forward some 3,800 years, and we find out all about the Timeborns for the first time, and we get to meet our series' leading lady, Olivia James, and all of her ridiculous childhood trauma. And with that, the archives are officially opened. And before we dive into the story, we ought to talk about how many versions of Timeborne exist and how many we have read, because it is the first book that Sara Samuels ever wrote. I know personally, I picked up version 1 from my library, and then I got a revised version when I read it the second time. And now Sara sent us all an ebook, whatever the latest version is. Maybe it's the exact same one that I just read. Maybe it's something completely new, but you guys have been around the block much longer than I have. How long you guys been peddling Timeborne?
Oh, since it came out, and this version is much more detailed. Really, she added a lot more
When did it
detail.
come out? 2021?
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
something like
21.
that.
I think I got the ebook from her in December, so I don't know if this is the same version.
Mm.
Yeah, I think she has 4. It's either 3 or 4 versions out. I think the latest one, obviously, it's either the 3rd or the 4th one. But
I've got 3.
I would have to go back through and look at every single book and see, because obviously when she updates Kindle or the Kindle version gets updated, my Kindle version automatically gets updated. So luckily I had the hard copy books that I could come back and go, wait a second, something's different, that I could go back through and look at the older versions. But alas.
Well, the audiobook's still on there at the moment because I know that she had them recorded previously, but she's planning on getting the newer versions re-recorded. But yeah, I've got the
gonna have a full
first 2.
cast.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
can't wait.
Can't wait.
I cannot wait.
Me neither, man.
Yeah, I think she told me that.
Patrick, I know you said Sara might not want you to show it, but I think Sara would love for you to show it.
You think Sara would love for me to show the,
So you
the,
should
the
show
white
the
man
very
can call it
first,
out.
I think you should show the OG cover.
the OG. There's the OG Timeborne. And
Rock
true to her
on.
she had the
these have
bookmarks
had
and
such a glow
everything. So let's
It
see.
really looks
I'll
like
put 'em-
YA.
It
Yeah.
does look like YA, and it is not YA at all.
It
I was
is
gonna
not
say,
I don't think I would
There
have
it
looked
is.
it up.
I was gonna say that.
I'm not sure I would have read the original.
There it
one
is.
just
I
based
like
on the
that
cover.
one. Yeah.
No, what I was saying was that the cover itself,
The
what really
content.
drew me in originally was this version. And then I searched out because I saw that there was another version out there. I searched out for it and I got it because I was like, I got to have the first edition. I just have
Nice.
to. So, yeah. So
That cover.
yeah, if it was
reminds me
this-
of like Northern Lights and stuff, like the Philip Pullman.
or shall I say Twilight with the moon? But I don't know. I probably would not have
There you
gotten
go.
drawn in
Yeah.
as quickly
Oh.
if it was that cover.
It doesn't look as dark romance as the one now.
No.
It's too light and bright.
Yeah.
Let's kick off the story with the dedications that Sara writes, because Sara once upon a time told me that there is messaging from her to the reader in these dedications. The first dedication says, "The world is filled with darkness. Come closer, dear reader. Fear not, for I am taking you on a journey." And the second dedication says, "To all the daydreamers whose hearts beat with a longing to try to travel through time and wander the corridors of the past. May your dreams be endless and your imaginations boundless, soaring to new heights with each passing moment. Embrace your dreams. They are the wings upon which your spirit flies." So I think the second dedication is essentially just asking everybody to open their hearts and minds to go on a journey. But the first dedication, the only thing that I'm really curious about is the line that says, "The world is filled with darkness." And I can't help but wonder if that D should be capitalized. Like, should we be on the lookout for the darkness, or is this telling us not everything is as it appears? I don't know. Sara she's an onion.
I thought you meant the real world that we live in, actually.
Well, definitely the Timeborne.
Mic drop. That was awesome. Done. Now that we have been sufficiently welcomed by the author, let's begin by delving into the origin of Olivia's childhood trauma with chapter 1 of Timeborne. Mr. Patrick?
It starts right off the bat with the shadows, the mention of the shadows, which really kind of just brings you in. It's a little different from the earlier versions, which is a fantastic change. Then reach back to Shadow Lords that I really liked that was added was the tendrils of smoke coiled lazily off his body of this mysterious man. I think word for word that was in Shadow Lords. So it was really good. And this book was written way before, so it really ties the two together. That truly is the origin of the whole series. But then we meet Olivia, which is our main character. She is in this part, she's still kind of young. She's a little child. She's innocent. But I think there's little hints in there where there's something deeper. And I've got that over the many times that I've read it. In fact, more so this time. But we'll get into that. But we also meet her mom, Alina. We also meet Jack, her dad. And then we also meet her godfather, which we'll get to in just a minute. But mom and dad own a antique store, and we open up the story of the antique store with a lady coming in with some beady-eyed doll, with a ceramic face. And I agree with Olivia that those dolls are just creepy. With the eyeballs that just kind of go back and forth, and they just kind of, whatever. So I completely agree. She wanted to rip its head off, but obviously her mom decided not to. The old woman that had the doll was like, "Fine, if you don't want it." And she grabbed it, put it in her bag, and left. But then they decided to go get some ice cream. And as they were getting the ice cream, the whole story started to shift by just listening to the words that Sara was putting out and the description of the mood of what the atmosphere was like. There was a storm rolling in, and it was a big one. Even the air inside the store changed. So you can the amount of description descriptive writing that she does is just still amazing because it makes you feel like you're standing in the store with Olivia. So Olivia's mom says, "Hey, stay here. I'm gonna go get the umbrella." Olivia runs back into the store, then puts her hands, up against the window so she can watch her mom. And all of a sudden, some dude shows up out of nowhere, just like the guy that disappeared out of nowhere. So this guy shows up, and apparently they know each other. It's kind of crazy for Olivia to look and like, well, wait a second, they're having a conversation. And then kung fu fighting starts out, and they start, swinging blades around, and and unfortunately, the mystery man, who is all shadows, all darkness, except for piercing eyes. That was something that she put on there. She really put it in there to make sure that he had piercing eyes. But all of a sudden, he disappeared after he gave her a loving kiss. Because that's what I would do. No, not really.
Yeah.
But so that's just it. So now she goes into the childhood trauma. My mom's just been killed. Jack is like, her dad comes to console her, and he's trying to make everything okay. It's going to be all right. She's going to be fine when she goes to the hospital. I mean, everything's good. And all of a sudden he gets a phone call from the hospital. I'm going to assume, because it never really says, but obviously she did not make it. And Jack freaks out a little bit, because now what's he going to do? Now he has this little girl that he's got to try and raise. Mom's not here anymore, which they didn't have a perfect relationship anyway, let's be honest. But now he's got to do it by his own, do it on his own. Enter one of my favorite characters, Moon Lee. Moon Lee is Olivia's godfather, and he's like, "What? You're kidding me." And then they get into an argument saying, well, who was after her? Was he in trouble? Did she wrong anybody? And Moon Lee's like, Sara, like, well, I don't know. You have to tell me. I don't know. You'll just have to find out. I can't tell you that.
Moon Lee's all like, read and find out.
Right. So there's that. So then he's like, well, I can't take care of her. You're going to have to help me. So Moon Lee's like, yes, absolutely. I will be happy to. So then he gets to Olivia, and he says, Little Moon, which is what he calls her. Little Moon, do you trust me? And then she says, well, yes, of course. Well, I'm going to teach you how to fight. And this is a little girl, remind you, this is still way, way in the story. What do you mean? My mom just got killed. Dad's over here freaking out, and you're going to tell me I'm going to fight? Who am I going to fight? I'm like 9.
She's 10.
Or whatever. What am I going to be doing? 10, whatever. Just time. Yeah. So anyway, it comes into that, and he's like, well, I'm going to teach you how to fight. And then she goes into, my life has just been turned upside down. Let me get back to that very end, because the very end of the chapter was pretty, that last couple sentences. Says, the carefree innocence of my childhood was now gone, replaced by responsibility I did not yet understand. In the years to come, I would learn to fight, but against whom? Dun, dun, dun. Actually, what I hear in my head is like the Law and Order thing. Dum, dum, So there's that. That's a real quick idea as to what happened in chapter 1 with understanding this childhood trauma that Olivia had to be put through. A couple of the things that I really kind of got on, I'm not going to look through my notes here, but she said at the beginning when she was going through the antiques, so that was something that she liked to do. She liked the history of it, even though she didn't do the intricacies of it. So I think that might be an Easter egg. Not sure if that's what you think about. Just because of this being a time travel book, it definitely foreshadows different things, especially with the Roman coin that she happened to drop, and it just falls up underneath the shelf there. The piercing eyes, the multiple mentions of the shadows are in there. I asked Sarah about the creepy doll and the lady. She does not come back because I thought for sure she was going to be somebody that was going to pop up somewhere later in the future or the past, or she was some kind of a character. But no, she's
I
not
think
one of
the
those.
reason they have that scene is because it was very clear that Alina treated Olivia kind of like an adult, because she said, "Olivia, what do you think of this doll?" And Olivia said, "I hate it. I don't even want to look at it." Like, she was really adamant about it. And Alina said, "Yeah, like, you heard her. I'm not going to take it." So I think Alina, she was a nice mother to her, but she kind of treated her like an adult.
But like right after she treated her like trash, where Olivia's like, "There's a guy outside," and Alina's like, "Hey, bitch, shut up. I'm with a customer."
You want to get ice cream?
And then she's like, "Oh, wait, I'm sorry. What do you think of this? How about you be a part of this?" Like, it's almost like Alina was like
She's
She
faking.
not
We all
doesn't
know
want to
Alina
interested.
be a
fakes
mother.
everything. And it's almost like she was grooming
I don't
Olivia
even know.
to an extent.
Well,
No,
I don't think she ever wanted to be
I
another.
don't think she understands. Yeah, she doesn't understand the human
No,
interaction it
not at
takes because
all.
she's not interested in it.
There was a line that I had. I wanted to ask everybody else about it. Straight away after, they were talking about the doll, and the woman got sent out of the shop being like, "Nah, we don't want to buy your crap." Um, it said, before shoving the doll in a crumpled sack, as the door slammed shut behind her, a strange tension seemed to dissipate from the room, leaving only a familiar creaking and whispers of the store. Do you think that that's foreshadowing before
Course.
all of this stuff happens? Do you think that, like we were saying in the first book, obviously there was a presence in, always around. Do you think this is the
Do you
same
know what's really
presence?
interesting about that, Sam? So this same chapter is the final chapter of Wicked Lovers of Time, but it's from Alina's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And in that chapter, the exact same, the elderly woman leaves and a tension seems to lift from the air. That same line is repeated from Alina's perspective.
Yeah. Because I thought that, because I remember, because like Wicked Lovers is one of my favorite, or probably my favorite book out of this whole series. But it was just very coincidental that obviously there was a presence in the first book, but it's never sort of named. There's not a named presence. And then there's, the tension that's been lifted as soon as this woman left. I did think that maybe that there was potential for this woman to be somebody else, or the doll was to be of somebody, but obviously Patrick's just said it's not. But I definitely think that there's something in the shadows, as it were, that's
I completely agree, and that's
yeah,
why
it's
I
not.
mentioned the first time I read it, it wasn't as descriptive as far as the feeling of the atmosphere, but
No,
you can
same.
definitely
When I was
see it
listening to
in.
the
Kind of disappointing that Sarah told you this is never coming back, because when you read Alina's perspective of this scene, you get a lot more about the elderly woman, and it seems very specific that she has some type of nefarious agenda in selling this doll. It seems as though she is not all on the up and up. And when Alina says no, she's like way too disappointed for reselling a piece of shit doll, because the doll is a piece of crap, because we get a really
She
good
has
description of
all
it
the
in
little
Wicked Lovers of
cracks in
Time.
her face.
It wore a tattered blood red cloak. The hood framed a melting face. I don't think there's a crack in it. The face is melting. And like, Sarah, why the details if you're never bringing it up again? If it is a throwaway, why the details? So like, what is the red cloak? So is this supposed to be, the Praetorian guards in ancient Rome wore red cloaks? Is that supposed to be a thing?
didn't
Or
Alina
like,
wear a red cloak in Wicked Lovers? Wasn't she in a red? Didn't she have a
Yeah,
red cloak
yes,
in yeah.
yes.
Wicked
Is this
Lovers?
supposed to be like some type of weird voodoo throwback
I wondered
callback
if
to
it was like
Alina in ancient Italy.
I wondered if it was like a premonition sort of thing, but not premonition. Like a Final Destination thing of like, oh, you see this doll is you, and then obviously like within like, I don't know, an hour, she's dead.
I also couldn't help but wonder if it had something to do with like Little Red Riding Hood, insofar as the melted face is sort of like, here's your fairy tale childhood, Olivia, comma, see the melted face, your childhood is about to become disfigured. If it was that
Huh.
kind of a
Wow.
foreshadowing type of a thing.
That's
I liked it.
that's good. So, one of the things that kind of stood out to me is, for those sorry, Lou, for those that have read, farther and gets a little bit more into Jack and who Jack is and what he's like. One thing that stood out to me here was out of all this, the shaking after while he's trying to call Moon Lee and stuff, but right before that, when he says, "Go," get in the store, he is very
Yes.
firm. It's like a completely
Yes.
different person.
Yes.
And even Olivia is taken aback. Like, wait a second, what? Whoa, who is this? That really stood out to me. So those Jack lovers out there, there's got to be something more to Jack that we're not seeing. So I'm kind of interested to see how that plays out. But
Yes.
obviously there's still a little bit left to go as far as the rest of the story. But as far as her childhood goes, there's a lot of foreshadowing, a lot of stuff, and it ends perfectly with, well, who am I supposed to fight? And then the very next chapter we pick up years down the road when she becomes some uber fighter, kung fu master that was able to take on everything. And I'm not sure who has that chapter. So
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
it will be Lisa,
you have
but
some other things.
I had
um,
one about the shop name that it was called Life
yes,
After
so did
Life.
I. Go for it.
I thought it was very I knowing the rest of the book, I think it's very telling about the name. I would be very, very interested to see who out of the two of them, Alina or Jack, or whether it was both of them, came up with a name. Because
Oh, that's interesting because like you're reading it like Alina or Jack named the store, and in my brain, Sara named the store. So so Sara is having a fun play with the Alina and Olivia and Roman are reincarnated souls type of a
that
thing.
was my thing. I was like, I wonder if it's because of the reincarnation that's why, or whether whether they bought a shop and it was called Life After Life, or whether they actually named it, or I don't know. I would be interested to know from Sarah's point of view where that came from. Like, would it be them or
I also thought it was really interesting reading um reading the Wicked Lovers version and comparing it to this, because there are a few notable differences that I found interesting. I don't think anything is remarkable per se, but I found some of the differences interesting. Um, and obviously we'll talk about this again when we get to Wicked Lovers, but like in chapter 1 here, Olivia's talking about how her mom just got back from an archaeological dig in Peru. But when you read Wicked Lovers, you know that what really happened is that she effed off to Italy, the 1500s Italy, for a year and had sex with Raul Costa and gave him a son, and then came back. So definitely not. I guess that's an archaeological dig of a whole other kind. I guess if you really wanted to think about it. And Alina walks in the store and she looks at a case of watches, and she just thinks about how broken they are and how they don't represent the world anymore. And I find that like time is broken or something, and like that's a really interesting
Interesting.
concept because of Solaris, like time literally breaks at the end of Rise of the Shadow Lords, but also Alina's about to die, but also not die. So like, is this like foreshadowing for like her time is up type of a thing? Thought that was an interesting little
Mhm.
tidbit. And then
Yeah.
otherwise, we already talked about the doll. The fight that she has in the parking lot with Balthazar is described completely different between the two books.
True.
And I found
But
that to be
do
so
you
like
think that's because this chapter's written in the POV of a 10-year-old?
no, the actual actions are different. So I think yeah, I'll tell you, and maybe you can have an opinion on it. So in Timeborne, and I'll paraphrase everything, Balthazar shoves Alina, pushes, and then Alina pulls her dagger out of out of her person. They have like a kung fu type fight, like Patrick said, where Balthazar's dodging and stuff. And then Balthazar pulls a dagger out of his robes and stabs Alina. In Wicked Lovers, Alina goes for her purse and Balthazar grabs her around the neck and starts choking her. And while her vision is like constricting, she pulls her knife out and flings it once at Balthazar, who takes it away from her and then stabs her with it.
Hmm.
And then, of
Maybe
course,
Wicked Lovers will be updated as well, so they fit.
Yeah, I would
I
think
don't know
so. Should
if
be.
Sarah, if you're listening to this, continuity error, or can we just not trust a 10-year-old's point of view?
Right,
Yeah,
right,
you,
Good
true.
question.
you know, I actually just double checked the description of the dolls, and in this one it says that the face has tiny cracks, so they don't agree about the
That's what
doll
I
either.
said. Yes.
Yeah, so you were
That's
both
why
right.
that's
Okay.
why I was thinking about whether it was because it's the POV of a 10-year-old.
Yeah,
I don't
Uh-huh.
remember everything as I would if it was, today versus when I was 10. So is it just what she saw, what she thought she saw, as opposed to like, you know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I had two other things that I thought were interesting about chapter one. Um, the first one is because, and it's even more interesting to me now that Patrick says, or somebody says, Sam, I think it might have been Sam or Patrick, somebody said that the chapter begins with this description of this weird shadowy man that Olivia sees in the parking lot, but in a previous version that never existed.
no, no, it literally,
So
as far as I'm aware, it started off with her saying that she'd gotten off the bus with her homework and she was going into the store and she was doing her homework in the store, and then there was a lot more of a description about this interaction between Alina and the woman with the doll, like a lot more between Alina and Olivia about the doll. Whereas in this, it was sort of like, "Do you like it? No, I don't." There was a bit more there was a bit more to it. But for me, straight away, it completely changed this book. Um, Having listened to the audiobook at the same time, the way it's written is so much better in the description and the actual writing of it. It's not, I can tell she's taken time thinking about how she would want to make this book better. Now she's written the rest.
Yeah, this one, the newer version definitely drew me. Like when I reread it, it started off faster. I mean, the very first, even
yeah,
the first time I read it, it started fast. I mean, from the very beginning. But this one was just like, I mean, within the first sentence, you're like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I completely. And it's funny when I read things because Sarah's always told me, I just want you to read just to see if it makes sense or if it flows and stuff like that, or if there's a hiccup or something like that. So, um, it flows for sure, and then obviously this one flows much better. It's more fluid, um, And now that we've read it, and now that I'm taking the time to really dive into it instead of me just reading it because I like reading it, um, I'm finding more Easter eggs this time around than I did the previous times. Um, so
Yeah, I like this edition because I think I remember reading the getting off the bus with the homework thing in the very first version I read. And I like this. It's also more in keeping with a lot of fantasy, like the Wheel of Time. The very first chapter is called something like An Empty Road, and the male character is walking down a road with his father, and he looks behind him and he sees a shadowy figure on a horseback, and then it vanishes. It's like very, very fantasy tradition to have like a shadowy presence that disappears to kind of set off tension in a book. But here's my question, because Patrick, you were saying that this edition really what felt like a callback to Rise of the Shadow Lords. So here's my question: the first shadowy figure that she sees, is that the same person as the person that kills her mother? Because we know that the person that kills her mother, we know for a fact that that's Balthazar. That is confirmed in Wicked Lovers. But we also know that she doesn't actually die, that Salvatore saves her.
I don't
So
think it
is
is.
Salvatore lurking there, and is that who we see at the very beginning, not Balthazar?
I think so.
yeah, I didn't get the feeling that it was Balthazar. I got the feeling that it was somebody else that you really, and again, it just because Balthazar didn't show up and he didn't have Shadow's tendrils wrapping around his feet,
Smoke. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yet
I
that
was
first guy did.
I was actually thinking about the shadow in the cave with Severan's tomb.
Oh. Oh, you mean the presence behind Lazarus?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh shit, is that the same?
It
Oh,
gave me a flashback to this.
That's what
Wow.
I was thinking too, because I thought if you've got well, the shadow and the tome, there was also a shadow. I can't remember where else uh
Yeah,
in Rise of the Shadow Lords. There was another present. Wasn't there a presence when Severin was talking to, is it
yeah. You
Gareth?
to
yeah,
Gareth in the
Yeah.
prologue? Yeah.
That there
yeah,
was a presence there
Yeah.
as well.
yes.
So I have a feeling there's a bigger presence. You know,
Shit.
somebody who's a bit more involved. Because why would you have so many mentions of it, but no actual name or actual like description of who this person or a presence is?
Wow.
I agree.
Sara Samuels, send me a DM. Confirmation needed.
Yes.
Fast forward 14 years. Um, and Olivia is having a morning workout.
Yeah. So now it's March 2019, 14 years later. So she's about 24 years old now, because in the first chapter, and it said she was in 5th grade, which is 10 years old. So she's about 24. 14 years had passed, and it's still, she says, haunted every moment of her life. What happened? She trained until her body ached and her mind was as sharp as the blade strapped to her side. So that's a foreshadowing. Um, and she trains with Lee. His cabin is buried deep in the Cougar Mountain woods, away from prying eyes. Then she is on her way to have breakfast with Papa, Jack. And it's a rare occurrence apparently, but she's going to do that. And Jack basically, their schedules rarely align because he spends his nights immersed in dusty tomes and obscure texts, consumed by sweat and steel. Another foreshadowing. So, she basically, before she leaves, Lee obviously, Moon Lee has a lot of, you know, has a great effect in her life. She straps on her Glock 22 to her thigh and leaves
As
leaves to
one
go
does.
to see Papa. Um, she kind of thinks about her boyfriend Tristan, who's a complete douche. Not in her mind, but I'm just saying he is. So he calls her on the phone, on her cell phone, when she's on her way to her dad's, and he's just like, well, where are you? Why aren't you here with me? And she's like, you mean at the hospital? And he goes, no, I'm here at the house. I forgot my fucking badge, he says. And then he says, I've got it now. And she says, well, I'm on my way to see my dad. And then the conversation pauses. And then she's like, did I lose you? And he says, oh, no, sorry. I'm just looking for my badge. And she thinks, hadn't he just said he found it? So there's definitely something shady about this douchebag. So a cold sensation was creeping up her spine. Something was off. So she feels it. So anyway, they get off the phone and she's thinking about her dad and thinking about how, you know, Moonly tells about that, you look after your dad, and she tells Moonly she's worried about him. And apparently she's thinking about when there was a time that Jack was in college in Vancouver that he'd once considered jumping from the clock tower window, pushed by the brink of ridicule and cruelty from his peers because of his dissertation, something he had poured his whole heart and soul into and had been met with scorn and mockery. This is a foreshadowing because we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but this is something that his whole adult life has been with him. So she goes and sees her dad, and he's saying to her, so are you still with your boyfriend? And she's like, oh God, why this again? What's the problem? And her papa, I'm going to call him Papa, but it's Jack. Her papa tells her, I think he's dangerous. And Moon Lee agrees with me. Well, he calls him Lee. And, she doesn't like that. She loves Tristan. Everything's fine and dandy. Even though she still had those, whatever, those, a creepy feeling about him. Well, basically, her dad says, I really need to talk to you about something and clear the air. When I was in school years ago, and even since then, I studied time travel. And she's like, you mean like traveling through time? And he said, yes. So this goes back to his dissertation, and he says there's a unique solar eclipse called Eclipsarum Obscura, the celestial convergence. So she's listening to him, and he says that during this time, if a baby is born during this time, the babies are called Timeborns. And you, by the way, Olivia, were born during the Eclipsum Obscura. And we never told you this before, but well, first she thinks, is my father delusional? And then he keeps explaining to her, and he goes, and then she's like, I'm going to go to Lee to validate your far-fetched tale, Papa. And then he's like, you're tearing my soul into a million pieces right now. It feels like I'm reliving my 1988 dissertation day all over again. So he's going back to that time. This is something that has tortured him for a long time. And today, the time that they're having together is the anniversary of her mom's murder. And he's coming clean with her. He says, by the way, you weren't born in a hospital. You were born in a cave in Peru. Your mother was searching for an artifact in La Cueva del Fuego. She slipped and hit her head, and her water broke. You weren't supposed to be born for another month, but it was meant to be. Leah and I think you're in danger. And she's like, you both lost your minds. And she says, maybe I will talk to Lee. And he says, do it, Papa shouted. And the sound froze her in place. He had never raised his voice to her. So this shows you how serious he is about this and how absolutely terrified he is for his daughter. He's and then he
Except for the
gives her
time
his
that he yelled
journal.
at her to get back into the antique store. I think
Yeah,
that might be a
yeah.
continuity
But
error.
that was probably new. Okay, but when it comes to her safety, he's very firm. Then he gives her his journals and he wants her to read through them. Just promise me you'll read them, he says. And that is the end of that. So let's talk about that.
I have a shadow watch.
Well, of
Yeah.
course you do, Shadow Watcher.
Hell yeah.
There's a part in it where it's when she was talking about getting changed, and she said, after scrubbing off the grime of the morning, I slipped into a white sunflower dress, one of my favorites. Its flowing fabric and bright patterns were a quiet rebellion against the darkness that had shaped my life. It made me feel like the girl I used to be, a girl untouched by shadows.
Yep,
Who's
I
that?
remember that too.
Mine is untouched by sorrow.
Untouched by sorrow.
But the new one says by shadows, I think.
Mine's got shadows there.
This is the new one. Mine says
The
sorrow.
one I read said shadows too. Huh, I don't know. I remember that shadow scene, and I knew you'd bring it up.
I don't know. It wasn't mentioned in the first draft that I had, and it's not
No.
mentioned in the audio one either. But I've got shadows in my version.
Man, what do you have?
Sorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, I have shadows.
I think I like shadows better.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I have.
Sorrow is a shadow.
Because I remember reading Shadows, and I thought to myself, I know that Sam is going to bring up Shadow Watch.
I wonder if it's in the set there. Hang on, I've got another version of this one.
Hell yeah, you do.
Of course you do, my dear.
So there's two versions. I have the version that I got given probably a year ago, and it says "A Girl Untouched by Sorrow." The one that you guys, I'm pretty sure the one that I got sent, the newest one, has shadows in it. So there's two.
Sure.
So, of the versions that I have all three. And I'm going to throw the third one out there because the original book doesn't even have that untouched comment in there. It just ends, "It was my favorite dress that always made me feel fresh and free." And then goes on to, "I grabbed my Glock 22 and strapped it against my thigh." So that part, untouched, wasn't even in her original. And then I've got two versions. I've got the latest one that says untouched by sorrow, but I also have untouched by shadows. So
The
I
latest
think
one,
we need a
I'm
resend
looking
because
at it.
mine's 2025.
Mine does says sorrow. I looked back, but for some reason, when she said shadows, I read it. Maybe I was thinking of the darkness that she mentioned. but I knew there was something about shadows and darkness.
So my copy that
but
mentions shadows is 2023.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna be jerks, and here's a message for Sara Samuels. Please update this sentence and revert it back to
Yes.
shadows. That's 18 times better. We all agree.
that's right.
Amen.
We
Done.
all agree.
Can I tell you guys that I was really, really curious what ChatGPT had to say about Olivia?
What
Yes.
did it say?
I asked it as well.
Do I have to fight someone, Matt?
No, I
Do you
don't think
want
so.
to?
I was just curious, like, okay, so when writers are writing, right, they want you to feel a certain way about a character based upon a thumbnail sketch that they give you, right? So what do we know about Olivia? She has got long, gorgeous red hair. She's very in shape from all of the martial arts training. She drives a forest green Jeep and she lives in Seattle, the Pacific Northwest. So I just kind of plugged those thumbnail things into ChatGPT, and this is what it spat back at me. This specific combination signals a fiercely independent, adventurous nonconformist who completely embraces a rugged Pacific Northwest archetype over Seattle's corporate tech bro stereotype. Driving a forest green Jeep highlights her self-reliance and love for off-road exploration, time travel, showing she prioritizes utility and outdoor capability over city luxury. When paired with her red hair, it creates a striking, earthy aesthetic that allows her to stand out naturally. Ultimately, she projects a spirited, resilient personality, someone who prefers remote cabin trips and mountain trails over flashy urban nightlife, valuing authentic tactile experiences and total personal freedom. And then it asked
Hell
me if
yeah.
I wanted to plan something like that to try to ask the girl out on a date. And I was like, that's not the intent. But also,
know.
yes, I would ask Olivia on a date. And then I looked up Olivia's name, and obviously Olivia means olive or olive tree in like Latin, but the connotations of olives and olive trees is of peace and hope. And I thought the word hope was really interesting because she's like the reincarnated princess and is the only hope for Solaris. I
Yes.
thought that was interesting. And then I also found it interesting to learn that Shakespeare popularized this particular spelling of the name Olivia back in the 1600s in his plays. And so the name has always carried a connotation of like classic romance and intellect.
That's
And
right.
as we
That's
know,
right.
she's very bright and goes on a romance across time,
Yeah.
as it were.
For sure.
I also looked up Tristan's name,
Good. What did it
and it has
say?
two different meanings, and I thought this was interesting. So Tristan, from the Latin root tristis, means sadness or sorrow, and
Well,
then
that's right. Triste means sadness in Spanish.
yes, so then Tristan is very close to the name Dristan in Celtic, and that one means riot or tumult, tumultuous.
Oh,
Oh
perfect.
yeah.
Very
That's the
fitting.
both
And I
are
was just like,
fitting.
wow,
Yes.
both fit this dude's sad
Yes.
character arc and the fact that he is just going to cause chaos in everybody's lives.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was pretty. Sara's an onion writer. It's amazing to see all of these Easter eggs from the beginning.
She is a very deliberate writer. Like what she writes is very deliberate, very thought out, very thoughtful. I love that about her.
Nothing is there by accident.
Exactly.
Here's my big question for this chapter. And I want to phrase this in a specific way. And I sat and thought about it for 3 days and I still don't know how to phrase this question. So please take my question with a grain of salt. Jack has had 14 years to tell Olivia about time travel after Alina died, which means that he's had 24 years technically to tell Olivia about this. Obviously, you're not going to tell a 3-month-old about the time travel stuff, but Jack is by all measures pretty eccentric. So the question is, I understand that today in chapter 2 is the anniversary Jack and Alina's relationship. But as we know from Wicked
Yes.
Lovers of Time, Alina and Jack didn't actually have a great marriage, which means Jack probably didn't mourn her quite as much as we are being led to believe. So
Right.
why is he making the decision to tell Olivia now? Or is it
I
really
know.
he's just been drinking and he's down in the dumps? Is that really the reason?
I have a reason. I think because she has this guy Tristan in her life,
Mhm.
and the father is worried about Tristan being like, maybe he's got the heebie-jeebies about him, thinks that he's dangerous, thinks something's going on. So this is the time. He can't wait any longer to tell Olivia. Maybe he never would have even told her and kept her out of it. But he's telling her because there is danger coming her way, and she needs to know.
Father's intuition. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and we know from the next chapter that Lee sees Tristan as a deadly weapon now. So maybe they think he's just reached the point where he has to know. There's no going back.
I don't even know why Lee trained him. Why?
No, why you don't like him? Why are you training him?
Exactly.
Clearly they're being supportive of Olivia.
Well,
we
maybe
have to
that he started training him because he was her boyfriend, and through training him, he has gotten to know him, and he realizes, hey, something's off on this dude.
I mean, I will say that the girls that I've dated that my family didn't like, there was no interaction period from the jump. so I don't know what Moonlee's niceness is, but
Maybe he's trying to find his weaknesses, and then he'll teach Olivia how to beat them.
True.
Olivia is very distraught and she leaves Jack's house with all of his journals in her arms, which by the way, Jack's journals are a very nice kind of parallel to Alina's journal, which is like the wrench in the cog of the wheel later. And she gets into her car and decides that she needs to go for a drive, and then shenanigans ensue. So, Lou, would you like to talk about the next chapter?
Yeah. So the first part is where Olivia leaves, and she's like, I don't want to go home. So she's just driving around and hitting Fremont until she's like, oh my God, there's something here I can't go any further because they have this street fair. And she's like, okay, this seems like a caricature of a 1960s hippie market. So I thought this sounded like fun. Yeah, but yeah, so she has to park her car and she wanders around for a bit. And then suddenly she's like, oh my God, that's Moon Lee. And she goes to talk to him, and she was just getting a bit more happy because the market was, I'm thinking it's quite fun to look at. And then her mood goes a little bit sour again because she's like, oh, wait, I'm mad at you because you don't like my boyfriend and you're teaming up with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the part where we get to hear that the moon calls her Little Moon because she was born in November, and in his tribe that was the month of the little moon. And I thought that was just cute.
Real quick, Lou. I'm just going to throw it out there that Olivia being born in November, I know that Sarah is also born in November.
Oh,
Fun fact.
yeah.
Fun
And
fun
this
trivia.
is yeah, that was fun. Yeah, and then we just spoke a little bit about this before. It's actually Lee who tells Olivia that Tristan is becoming a deadly weapon, but so are you.
That's
So,
Yeah.
right.
yeah, and then Olivia keeps asking, but why? She's like, okay, but is he dangerous to me? And Lee is like, just he's leaving. He doesn't want to talk anymore about this. And then Olivia wanders a little bit more and she sees this psychic or fortune teller or whatever you want to call it named Aurora. So like Northern Lights. So more colors, which is fitting with the hippie team.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, of course, she lures Olivia inside, even though Olivia is very skeptical and being like, no, I don't believe in this stuff. And if he tells me anything true, it's just pure luck. But she goes inside, even though she doesn't have the money for it, actually. But Aurora is very insistent that just please go with me. So she has to draw these cards. And I'm not very well known in this world. I don't know if any of you guys knows anything about these cards. I just know them.
Tarot cards. Tarot cards.
Yeah, but I only know them from having heard of them. I've never tried it. So I was actually just curious if any of you guys tried it.
I've heard
I
of it
was
a little bit, but not much. I'm not into it, but I've heard
No.
it.
Patrick, you look really dubious, dude.
There was a girl I dated that every decision, everything she thought about,
Oh,
No.
Lord.
Oh
everything
no.
I would
You
I
had
would
to
be like, she
consult
would
the
have to
cards.
consult the cards. Her deck of cards were so worn. I was like, what are you doing? She's, well, I'm just checking the
You could
cards. I'm like, for what? That doesn't make sense to
What are
me.
we
then
having
you
for dinner?
said,
I don't know.
So
and then you
I
said, check
wish
those
I could be like
cards if
that.
I'm going to marry you, and they're going to say no.
yeah, you're right. I was definitely not the lever card that she ever pulled out. So, um, but yeah,
Sam,
I, yeah.
Sam, do you have any experience with tarot readings?
No, I've always been intrigued by it because I don't know. I'm not majorly into like astrology or anything like that, but I do think that there's sometimes a little bit of fate that could be decided by something. I don't know whether it's just like the powers of persuasion. Do you know what I mean? Like if somebody says that this is what's going to happen, that it puts it in your mind's eye that that's the way you're gonna lean more towards. But yeah, I don't know. I would always. Uh, I'm not so skeptical. Potentially give it a go and
So,
see.
so what I'm
But in this
ascertaining
book, I
here
believe in it.
is that out of all of us, I am the most hippie of all of us. That is disturbing. It's although look at me, I guess it's not all that. Anyway,
It's kind of a
Just did
chick
a.
thing.
I just did
I
a little
recently
Google of Aurora's name. Do you know
oh yeah, 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 celestial
she's a
event.
Roman goddess?
Yes. Yes,
Yes,
that was
So
what I was
I
gonna
will.
bring up. Yeah.
she symbolizes dawn, which symbolizes the arrival of light after darkness. Also
Yes.
And
bringing
she's
new hope.
Life
giving,
after life.
Yeah,
and she's
also
giving
bringing
Olivia
new hope.
clarity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's just talk a little bit about the cards she's drawing. Okay, so she choose. I don't know if you can say chooses, but the first one is the Tower, which means upheaval, chaos, and loss. And then Olivia is like, "Oh, that's my mom." And
Yeah.
Aurora is gonna draw another card, and then she's like, "Okay, I think you lost someone. I think it's your mother." And Olivia is like, "Oh, how did you know?" But she's still skeptic, so she's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
maybe she just got lucky with this guess." And then she has the moon, so more moons. We like moons in this chapter, but it's reversed. So this is confusion and fear. And then she's thinking about her father and the time travel and her unusual bird in Peru and the cave and celestial event. And then then it's Wheel of Fortune, which symbolizes change, cycles, and fate. And then she has the Lovers, and she's told a fierce, powerful man will bring her love, marriage, and happiness.
Yes.
Yes. Gee, wonder why? Wonder who? I mean, we don't know. Yeah. And
I
then we
know.
have five. Yeah. Then we
Five of
have 5 of Wands, which means that there's a temporary but unavoidable conflict. So, and that being the marriage would mean the road to the marriage will not be easy, but it's unavoidable. So this is actually where we get told you're gonna marry this man that the reader doesn't know who is yet, and there's no way this is not happening. So fated mates,
Mhm.
and then we have
Love Fate
King of
Day.
Cups. Yeah. And then we have King of Cups, and yeah, that's a loving father figure whose kindness has shaped Olivia's life more than she realizes. And this card is actually closely tied to Olivia's fate and to her future partner.
That's
Thought
Jack.
that Sara Samuels did a really good job of picking these particular cards because there are
I
a lot
agree.
of cards in Tarot
Yes.
that you can select. And I think it's really interesting because I know one of Tam's questions was, do you think that the tarot reading was predicting this book or the entire series? And knowing Sarah, I think they predict the entire series.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. The
Definitely. No doubt.
tarot reading is the series.
Yes.
Um,
No doubt.
my most recent tarot reading was actually a really abbreviated one because I think you guys saw on my Instagram stories. I recently went and saw La Boheme as a ballet. But the cool thing about it was completely reimagined to take place in 1920s New Orleans around Mardi Gras. So
Interesting.
there was a local
Yeah.
tarot reader here in Columbus who was there at the event doing free tarot readings as a part of like the Mardi Gras festivity theme of the ballet. And that was really fun. So the idea was you got to go online and she told you to think about something and then reach out and select one single card out of the big fanned deck and she would tell you about it. And because I'm kind of right now on the fence about what to do with like my professional life, uh, because nobody's hiring and it's like rough. But like I found this whole podcast thing, and not for nothing, I don't make any money. Whatever, it's a huge time suck, but I love it and I'm relatively decent at it. Um,
Yes,
and
you
she she
are.
she pulled the nine of cups, and what it is it is a person sitting on a stool surrounded by cups, and the idea is that you have to go with your intuition in order to know how to fill up all of your cups. So if something fills up your cup, trust that feeling and lean into it. Now it's just like, oh, okay, we're leaning into the podcast, cool. But
Yeah, buddy.
then you start looking into some of this stuff, and like cups can also be like, could this be a thing that actually makes your cup empty? So all of these cards have multiple meanings. So I thought it was interesting. Like we go through these and we think about how they apply to the rest of the series, and we start with like the Tower, upheaval, chaos, and disaster. Its opposite is like unity and fulfillment and happiness. And I'm like,
Yeah,
what could mean either? And I could only think of
everything.
Solaris. Solaris is the
Yeah.
thing that
Yeah.
causes all the chaos and disaster, but it's also the thing that can cause unity at the end. And I also thought it was interesting because princesses are oftentimes in fairy tales locked away in towers, and we now know that
Yeah.
Olivia is a reincarnated princess. Um, the upside down moon, man, I'll tell you what, the moon symbology is a little on the nose, you know, this
Uh-huh.
chapter. But I did think it was interesting that because time travel can only occur, at least for Timeborns, at the full moon, it's almost more like, so this card signifies confusion, fear, and misinterpretation, and therefore its opposite is safety, happiness,
Certainty.
and understanding. And I feel like the moon in the series, the moon itself provides the characters with both.
Uh-huh. For sure.
The Wheel of Fortune, inevitable fate, something is big on the horizon, whatever, that's cool. But is that Olivia learning about being Isabel and getting her memories and healing Solaris? Is that the big change
It's about
on the?
everything. Like her whole life changes.
No, I still think there's more to
I
come.
think you think that's
Oh
what?
yeah.
I think there's more to come. I think
Yeah.
obviously when we read the last book there was about 2 people from your bloodline. I still think that she's gonna be the
Yes.
big thing.
Okay. I think the Lover's card. If anybody has a theory about how that is not signifying Roman, please speak now.
No, it's Roman. I love that couple. It's one of my all-time favorite couples.
I thought the Five of Wands was the best card that she picked. Because what conflict, competition, and tension paves the path. So the opposite of that would be more unity and
Yes.
safety. So what are the 5 things? And this is what I came up with. It's the 5 houses of Solaris: Timeborns, Timebounds, Time Healers, Shadowborns, and Shadow Lords.
Ooh, you rock.
Smart.
That is mind blown, Matt. Wow. Matt, you go.
And King of Cups, father figure. I want to know what you guys think. Is this Lazarus or is this Moon Lee? I think he loves you deeply and wholeheartedly, and his warmth and kindness shapes your life in more ways than you realize. Is that
Maybe
I have
Lazarus
so.
another one
or
to
is that
throw
Moon
in.
Lee?
Malik.
Sorry, what was that, Sam?
I said I have
Malik.
another one to
Ooh.
throw in Malik. Because there's obviously the whole
Nice
thing
catch, Sam.
about how he had he was in love with her, or in love with them, as it were, when they were the other, was it Isabel?
Isabel and Armand.
Yeah. So I would. That's where my brain went.
Good job, Sam.
And I suppose Olivia paid $11 for this earth-shattering, accurate tarot reading. That is a bargain.
My
Yeah.
biggest thing about this bit is that she was no, I'm a skeptic. I don't believe in this stuff. And then the second somebody starts going, well, this is this and this is this, and she goes, oh, is it Tristan? Is it my dad? Like, I don't know. It's just like she's almost drawn into it. Like,
Well,
you
you
could have said
can't help
anything.
it. Like when somebody starts, you get caught up in it for sure.
She threw out the
Like somebody saying, oh, there's
perfect
somebody in
hook.
your life that begins with a J, that is
Yes, exactly.
this. Would I pay $11 for it? Probably not.
I thought
It's
11
fun.
was also an interesting number just because 11 is one of those angel numbers that people talk about all the time. And I don't know too much about that, but I saw that and I was like, oh, that's got to be significant for some reason.
Yep.
But then all this really does is it makes Olivia want to maybe believe her dad a little bit. So she heads on back to the Jeep because of course she's got a Jeep.
So before we get
and to look at Jack's journals.
Too deep into it, I want to ask a question. Let me get my book. Let me get
Shoot.
my notes out. As you can see, the next chapter is actually pretty good.
Your book is all your
My
little
tabs.
annotative
Yeah.
copy.
Well, that's for another conversation. But so while they're having this conversation, Lee and Olivia, in the newer versions, it says Lee's gaze flickered, and for a moment, I thought he might say something more. Instead, he hefted his bags and straightened his shoulders. I need to get going. I'll see you at the gym tomorrow. If you listen to the audiobook and the earlier versions, it basically says that he saw someone and he's like, oh, hello. There's a friend I haven't seen in ages. I need to go talk to him, and then just walks off. I'll see you at the gym tomorrow. So my question is because they're both in there, one's a little bit more detailed as to say why there was a glitch, but it's something that has always struck me. And actually I sent Sarah a message about this earlier this week because again, it brought it to my forefront, and I have yet to get an answer from her. But I understand she's been on vacation, taking a little bit of break from writing. So she did send me that, but she didn't answer my question, of course. But what do you think would be the glitch? Because I think taking out the him seeing somebody and then, oh, I got to go is almost like, who did he see that he had to leave right away? That's
Lazarus.
exactly who I'm thinking.
Yeah, I thought it was Lazarus. Yeah, it was my first
That's
thought.
exact because it was just like, oh, hello. Oh, gotta go. See you at the gym tomorrow.
Yeah.
Peace. You know,
Subtext, I got to check in with
Yeah.
the boss.
for sure. And maybe
What's
you'll
the
get an
plan?
answer, Matt.
Maybe you'll
I wonder
get
why
a
she
you'll
took that out.
see.
I don't. Well,
Yeah, you'll have to
the
read on.
the more I've figured out with editors, that aren't invested in the story, some things could get taken out and it'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that doesn't really make a difference. But when you see it together, especially when you're like, oh man, that would be so good to leave back in there or put back in there. Because it really reaches back to, well, who was he looking at? That glitch is just enough to be like, oh, well, what happened? Why did he glitch? But if you look at the earlier version, there was
Unless she
somebody.
decided there is nobody.
Uh,
Unless she decided there is nobody.
I think there's somebody.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
but she took it out. She took it out.
Well, somebody took it out. But it's
Yeah.
an interesting question.
So I agree with you. I'm just saying, why did she take it out?
I love that observation. I want Lazarus to be at the farmer's market so hard.
I think
Yes.
that was actually my
too.
question to her was like, is he looking at Lazarus? Is that who he's saying hello to?
Yeah.
Because Lazarus would have just shown up and just stared at him, But anyway, just an interesting observation between the multiple
Well, I think
stories.
that would be a great possibility. Yeah.
Well, I guess after all of that goes down, Olivia heads back to her Jeep to check out her daddy's journals because the fortune teller made her want to reconsider. So,
Which I think is
Lou, you want-
awesome because she needs to
Yeah.
get reading.
you want to close that out, Lou?
Lisa actually already told us about what's in the journals because it was about this Eclipsarum Obscura, and then a lot of detail. I'll actually just leave the readers to read this because this is kind of complicated to explain. But I thought that it was quite interesting that the name you could actually, if you want to, you can translate it into the shadowy eclipses. Well, if you tweak it a little, you can translate it
The
into
dark,
that. And I thought,
dark of the
I
moon.
thought that was quite interesting. Yeah, but the last of the chapter was just Olivia reading and being like, no, this is not true. But still, there was a part of her that was like, what if it is true? Yeah, and then she drives back to her father because Olivia being true to herself, and this is one of the parts I love most about her. She gets these feelings and she acts on them. So she's like, okay, there's something off. I have to go double check on my father. And she walks in, and be like, what is happening? My boyfriend is holding a gun to my father's head.
And no bueno.
Ugh, makes me so
He's
mad.
I thought the journals were really interesting for a couple of reasons, and we don't have to necessarily go too in depth in what is really just the explanation of what a Timeborne is, which Lisa talked about over breakfast. But the journals do give us a little nugget that it's not just a solar eclipse. It's a very specific type of solar eclipse where also two black holes out in the universe collide. So it happens once every 100 years is what Jack's theory is. And then I guess the other interesting thing about the journals, which leads me to my theory, is that Jack recounts how Olivia was born in the cave in Peru. And if we compare that with the memory that Balthazar shows Olivia and then the journal entry that Alina writes about it, this is yet a different retelling of that same event. And we know that Alina's journals were completely manufactured. So I'm wondering if Jack manufactured any of his journals specifically to give to Olivia. Like is there symmetry with what Alina did? I don't know. It just, why is it not the real telling? Like, why doesn't Jack tell us in the journal that Alina was beating on her belly with a rock and he had to make her stop and stuff like that, you know? It's just interesting. It's weird.
Maybe it
Are we
was too
sure there are not
painful for
two
him.
timelines? It seems like there are more timelines.
Yeah. Olivia goes back to Jack's and things aren't good there. And like, we finally get to the big crux of our entire episode.
So Sam.
So in this chapter, we find Tristan, Olivia's boyfriend, holding a gun to Jack's head. But whilst he's been doing that, he reveals that he has been dating Olivia for 2 years, but actually following and spying on her for 5, because he was just doing his job. I did put in the notes trash. He also reveals that
Yes,
he has been recording them. Basically waited until Olivia's dad was in one of his drunk crying manic episodes for him to pass out asleep, that he's put recording devices in the house. And basically was waiting for Jack to reveal to Olivia that she is a Timeborne and yada yada yada. And she's confused as to how he's managed to get there. And he said, "Well, you told me this morning you were going for breakfast, so I've driven all the way over here. I thought I gave myself away because the banging against the window or the rustling in the trees, I can't remember which one it was him." And then he basically starts telling Olivia that she needs to go and get the dagger that she's only just found out about. So he sends her on a merry way to see Lee, and go and find the dagger because Jack gave it to Lee to hide. And then Olivia goes to see Lee. Lee then goes, "Oh, I don't know where I've hid it. It's got to be in the forest. No, wait, hold on a second. It's hidden in my office of crap." Um, and so he gives her this dagger and she's like, "Yep, you sure this is the one? Yeah, yeah, no problem. That's definitely the one you need." And so he sends Olivia on her merry way back home, to her dad's house. And her dad's sitting in the living room, tied up to the chair, and so she tries to break him free, and then Tristan is sitting in the kitchen, and he's like, "No, no, don't do that. Come sit with me. We'll have a drink." And she's like, "I don't want to drink." And he was like, "We've got time to kill. Let's do it." And so they're sitting there having some drinks, and both of them are starting to get a bit tipsy, and she feels that she could potentially take him on, um but that she's off her game a little bit because she's slightly inebriated. And so then Tristan tells her that she needs to go and get the knife. She keeps begging for her dad to be let go, and she'll give him whatever he wants. Goes to the car to get the knife out of the car, um and finds out that it's not actually the knife that he wants. he says it's not the right dagger, like you've fooled me. And she's like, I have no idea what this thing looks like. You know, somebody tells me this is going to be the dagger. This is going to be the dagger. And then out of nowhere, Moonlee is sort of hiding in the tree line and puts this knife up that's glowing. And so he says, right, go and get the knife. And she's like, right, I will. And literally tells her that she's got 10 minutes and then decides to shoot her dad in the leg and says, no, actually, you've got 9 minutes. Now, gotta hurry up. And so Olivia then runs to Moonlee to get the dagger. And then Moonlee says, nah, that's not gonna happen. Slices her hand, says the whole spell thing that I'm not even gonna try and translate because there's no way I could say it. It would just sound like a load of gibberish if I tried. And things start happening. And the last thing Olivia sees is Tristan shooting Jack. And Moonlee pushes the dagger into Olivia's hands and just sort of pushes her into wherever she's going. And that is it. She sort of just disappears.
I love it.
Yep. Dude, it's a banger of a chapter, man.
It was,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
It was a lot. It was like going from here to there, then from there to here, then, yeah. There was a lot of to and fro.
I love how Moonlee. Oh, what? Go ahead.
No, carry on.
I love how Moonlee gives her the fake dagger to buy some time so he can sneak up and, do his
Did
thing.
anyone not see this coming?
I had a question about that because, like, but why?
Because he needed to have the dagger in his hands to do that to Olivia. He
Yeah, but
wanted
surely-
Olivia to give.
But surely he could have said, right, this is what you need to do. I'm going to give you this knife, and at midnight you need to go silence your hand and then say this
But
voodoo
Sam, she's a
thing.
But
skeptic.
no.
Yeah, she's very
If she's
skeptic
I like
at
the
this
way it
point.
happened.
If she's going to believe the person
I love it.
reading
Lisa's
the
over here like,
cards,
stop ruining my book.
if you're gonna believe
like
somebody
the
that's
way
reading
it
the cards, and you go, no, I don't believe this. I'm skeptical. And then suddenly go, well, but that man that I love is going to be the love of my life. And then he turns out to be an absolute arsehole.
That's not who he was talking about. That's not
And then
who they were talking about.
goes, here, Moonlee, give me the knife. And she's going to go, no, I don't believe that. I don't know.
Like I said, she frustrates me sometimes, but she's all right.
I just wondered if there was like
from
an ulterior
Moonlee's
motive.
perspective, from Moonlee's perspective, the last words that she yelled at him in the middle of the farmer's market, like she accosts him of conniving with her father to turn her against her boyfriend and give her a load of horse shit about this fake false time traveling. I think those are more or less the sentiments that
Fake
she
news.
yells at Moonlee in the middle of a farmer's market. So like, why would Moonlee be like, she might believe me. I should probably tell her all of this so she can save everybody's life. It's
Gotta
so
take
much more
matters into
cinematic
his
as
own
well if this
hands.
gets turned into a movie for him to like come bounding in slow-mo through the woods and fling a knife at her. Also, can we all understand how much it's gotta freaking hurt to catch a knife by its edge like that? Like how deep that wound is gonna be? It happens so many
Exactly.
times in this series. It happens at the end of Timeborne too. Like these
Oh, one of the-
gashes are like
One of the first things
hospital.
we're ever taught in like chef school is to not catch a knife. So why
Yes,
that's
you
an
let it drop.
instant response, I don't know. I wouldn't be like, oh, let me catch it. Nah.
I know you want to
Never.
dodge it. You want to dodge
Yeah.
it.
Here's something that I find very interesting about what Moonlee does. Because if I read this correctly, and if you guys have the same version, Moonlee seems a little bit drunk, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And then later in the book, Olivia is given this like special wine that puts her in this state so that she can say the words at a full moon in time travel, right? Do we all remember this?
That's towards the end of. Is it not the end of the towards the end of the book?
Patrick, Lisa, do you remember this special wine?
No,
No?
I thought it was towards the end of the
no,
book
but
when
that doesn't
'cause she
mean
does
it
the
doesn't exist. I just don't remember it.
she was doing the whole thing because she had to get Marcellus and Roman to do it. Is there not? I'm sure there's a
Oh
mention
yes,
of it
yes,
towards the
yes.
end
There's something.
because she has
Yeah.
to. Does she not have to drug Marcellus to do it? Because she
Yeah.
has to put
Yeah.
the daggers in their hands.
Yes.
Ah, okay,
So
yeah.
So after this book, this special time traveling drug, this hallucinogenic, whatever the F it is never mentioned ever again. Like maybe we get it in like some memory in the Native Americans, but like what is this special wine
Peyote.
and
Yeah.
why is it so necessary for time traveling if nobody else does it ever?
Because it just
I don't
relaxes
think.
you.
I think it was fixed in this one
Well,
because in this one she refuses to wine.
But then she's drunk as well. Like,
well, yeah,
is there?
on
Everybody's
like
drunk.
Jack
It's
Daniels or
It's
whatever.
a
ridiculous.
rave.
Your crazy boyfriend has a gun to your dad's head, and you get drunk. I
You
mean,
get
what?
drunk, of course, as one does.
She doesn't have to drink. I mean, she can fake it or pretend, take sips.
I mean, can you?
Those are
I
the
mean,
kind of things she
I
does
don't
in
think she can.
romance.
I
smoke them if
think
you got them, right? And not for nothing, when Tristan, small Easter egg thing, when Tristan references having a job to do, he's just trying to get information for his dad, Balthazar.
Mhm.
What a nepo baby.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
sleazy. Ooh,
But not a very
good
nice
butter.
job to get.
Yeah. And I know, Sam, you said you didn't want to try to translate the words. It's they're either Arabic or Aramaic. They're one of those two. I
They're
can't
Aramaic.
remember.
I actually asked her that.
Yeah,
Aramaic.
Aramaic.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if what I wrote down the very first time I ever read this book, or maybe it was the second time when I was doing it with my sister-in-law, but it translates to, "O protector of the moon in the night, I call upon you to unleash the light and guide me through the darkness. Let the great sun dance around you with love and affection. Together, open your gates and grant me travel through time and space like the shadows of the night."
Beautiful.
I was gonna say, and in
And that's
English,
a,
that sounds incredible.
it's just loaded with, the darkness and the shadows and the moon, and then the Aramaic language is just a big callback to Ugarit and the languages they were speaking over in that part of the world, or that part of history. So
That's right. That's right. I wonder who wrote that, though. Who wrote that? Where did it?
the
What's its
shadows,
origin?
The
the shadows in
Shatter.
the Tome of Shadows. I bet you
Right.
anything.
Right.
I bet it came out of a Tome of
Yeah.
Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did they get it? How did Jack get it? Or Moonlee get it?
Moonlee got it from the tribe, I'm sure, and they got it from who knows where.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll just
Okay.
say the oral tradition of Timeborns.
Right.
Yeah.
But it is
Well,
very
I'm so
cinematic.
excited for the next bit.
With a splitting headache, Olivia awakens on a white sandy beach. She sees a man who's dressed kind of oddly, and she notices that he's injured. And as she goes up to and attempts to help him, she realizes that he's dressed like a Praetorian guard out of the movies and is speaking some weird ass form of Latin that she can barely understand. And then it clicks. She's in ancient Rome. But then there are 3 more guards that show up and they attack Olivia. Now, our Olivia is a badass and she takes out 2 of them. But she can't take
Yeah.
out the 3rd, and he tackles her to the ground. And then all three of them get up together, and our story comes to a pause as they bind her and prepare to take the suspected Caledonian spy to the Emperor. But for now, the archives are closed.
Oh,
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next week as we pick up our story. And Olivia is on full display with Mortal Kombat awesomeness in front of the Emperor.
she's a boss.
See you next week.
Bye.